All those who have joined, thank you for joining. We'll be starting in just about another 2 minutes. Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for the webinar. As you know, we have a special format to this webinar today, as we've asked 3 of our fellows from the current PLF batch to join us to answer your queries along with the program team. I'd like to introduce the program team, starting with Shrabni Ghosh, who's the director of the Plaksha Tech Leaders Fellowship. Prior to this, Shrabni worked for about 22 years as a corporate banker with the French bank called BNP Paribas. And then she decided to make a switch to education. And she joined us in February. And I think it's been a great journey for her. Moving on, we have Pallavi Jain, who is the Director of Strategy and Programs at Plaksha. She is on a secondment from the Boston Consulting Group and has been with us for about 3 years now. Pallavi was one of the first few people who helped devising the fellowship program. Then we have Jiva Matthews, who's managing admissions and outreach for the fellowship program. And then there's me. I'm Dhwani Arora, who is handling and in charge of academics at the Plaksha Tech Leaders Fellowship. I'd also like to let the fellows who've joined us today introduce themselves. So over to you, starting with Bhairavi.
Hello everyone, my name is Bhairavi. Compared to a lot of the fellows in the batch, I'm not from a tech background. I did my civil engineering from VIT, did my master's in sustainability and environmental studies. And that's when I realized that I wanted to move to data science and use data science in sustainable development. And that's why I joined the fellowship. And I'm looking forward to answering the questions that you guys have.
Next. Praveen, why don't you go ahead?
Right. So myself, Praveen. I am a mechanical engineer by education, but after that, I've been working as a machine learning engineer for 4 years. And the main reason I wanted to join Plaksha and I'm here is because I wanted to get into research and like a leadership role in research labs sort of thing. And it's been quite a pleasant experience here, and I'm looking forward to answering the questions.
Hi all, I'm Pranav, and I have a very diverse background in the tech space, starting from research to software development to financial markets, and now I'm planning to switch to education. My journey has been really pleasant at Plaksha, and I'm looking forward to answer your questions today.
Thank you, Bhairavi, Praveen, and Pranav. Now, I'd like to hand over to Shrabni, who will be starting off with the presentation.
Yeah, hi all. Welcome to this webinar. We are here to answer all questions and clarify all your queries regarding the Plaksha Tech Leaders Fellowship. So I'll start by giving an introduction of the fellowship. So Dhwani, can you, so as you would know, Plaksha Tech Leaders Fellowship is the flagship program of Plaksha University. We started this last August, and this is the founding batch. You've just met 3 people from the founding batch. So it's a 11-month program, which started for the current batch started last August, and they're going to be finishing end of June. So what is the Tech Leaders Fellowship? It is actually a very unique journey with a very, very one of its kind curriculum, which is, definitely in India, as well as also probably one of its kind in the world, which intervenes artificial intelligence and machine learning with an exposure to courses in the technical, social context, and also a big focus on leadership. Sitting in India, you have access to, around 30 visiting faculty who come from various parts of the world. This year, our fellows have been taught by professors from Berkeley, from Purdue, they will be taught by somebody from Stanford. And also in India, we have professors from Ashoka, from IIT and other eminent institutes. We also, apart from academics, we have, practitioners. So we've had people coming in from Google, from Mountain View, California, and teaching our students. We've had people from HRS Germany. So again, a wide variety of people in the faculty. Students, so we had 59 people. That's what we aim at a class of even for this year. Dhwani, if we can just go to the next slide. Yeah. So this is what I spoke about. It is, the journey is, there are 4 key pillars to this Tech Leaders Fellowship. One is, so there are 8 terms. Average terms are all of around, 5 to 6 weeks. And this runs for a period of around 11 months. So there are core technology courses, which form the, one of the key pillars of the program, which kind of exposes students to artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science through both theoretical learning as well as a lot of applied courses. Projects, etc. Then we have a lot of courses around technical and social context. So you have courses on design thinking, systems thinking. We have something called the Grand Challenge courses, which applies artificial intelligence and machine learning to grand challenges facing India and the world. So for instance, these could be topics around agriculture, around energy, environment, healthcare, which is so relevant right now. The third pillar of the program is what we call the exposure to the real world. There are 2 basic components of this part of the curriculum. So there's a challenge lab, which is 12 weeks, and it takes students through a mini entrepreneurial journey where students have to work in teams, and an opportunity or a problem is identified, and then you kind of focus on building a prototype around that. So you do market feasibility studies, then finally at the end of 12 weeks you pitch this idea to a jury of potential investors, and it actually gives you a flavor of how an entrepreneurial life cycle works. The other part is what we call the capstones, or these are the equivalent of an internship. So this is 8 weeks, which is where you can spend, 8 weeks which you spend working on a project, either with company or with a faculty in a particular institute. We also had 6 students this year working on their own startups. So just to give you a brief example, we had students, so our fellows worked on 24 companies for their capstones. This ranged from names like BCG, Microsoft Research, IBM, Amuse Labs, MFine, and diverse sectors, delivery, etc. And for faculty, we have 3 students who are currently in Purdue. We had students working with the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, with Ashoka University professors, and so on. The fourth, last but not least, component of the curriculum is leadership. Leadership is a very, very important aspect of our curriculum because, as you can see in the name of the program, it's a Tech Leaders Fellowship. So we aim to turn tech leaders of engineering graduates who enter the program. So we give a lot of emphasis to mentorship, and that's been something which has been appreciated by our fellows. We've had around 38 CXO mentors, which cater to around 59 of our students for this year. We also give students an exposure to a lot of guest sessions from top entrepreneurs and industry leaders, from various aspects of industry. So you can take a quick look at the academic, the kind of faculty which has taught this batch. And as I mentioned earlier, these are, faculty from various parts of the world, absolutely stellar names in their respective fields. And yeah, moving on. So this is kind of what I just spoke about. This is the journey which Tech Leaders Fellow goes through in the 11 months. It is a very, very intensive program, just like any master's level graduate programs are. And so we are currently at the end of the capstone project, which I spoke about, the internship project. So the courses in dark gray are the technology core courses I spoke about. The blue ones are the courses around the technical and social context. The yellowish green ones are the leadership courses. And then of course we had the real world experiences, which are the capstone and the challenge labs. And the term ends at the end of term 8. So we have right now, we have 2 more terms to go before our students graduate. So apart from all the academics, this is the current campus is though Plaksha University is coming up in Mohali, and the first batch of undergrad will start in 2021 September. Right now, the TLF is run out of our center in Gurgaon. This is in Udyog Vihar, very close to the airport and to Cyber City. So you can take a look at the classroom. You can take a look at the area where our students spend a lot of time. We normally should have a photograph featuring a lot of beanbags where students love to hang out in, but okay, that photograph is not here, but you can check it out for yourself when you come. These are our students ideating during the challenge labs. The next slide, please, Dhwani. Yeah, and the residences are about 15 to 20 minutes from the Plaksha campus, which that's also just behind Cyber City. And since our students are here, they will talk about the journeys they've had. Apart from the academics, there's a lot of fun and games also, as we'll see in the next slide. We've had a sports day where we saw how our Tech Leaders Fellows can definitely play a part in some Olympics at some time. We had a talent night where again we had a whole range of talents which were showcased. We have a lot of interactions with our founders and mentors. And of course, the beautiful, colorful picture on the right are the Diwali celebrations. So the idea is when you join Plaksha, it's not just for those 11 months. You develop some very strong relationships with your peers. You develop some lasting relationships with, of course, the Plaksha team, which is us, the program team, and the Plaksha community of founders and mentors. So that's it. And I will hand over now to Jiva, who most of you may be familiar with. He handles our admissions process. Thank you.
Thanks, Rabani. I think you pretty much summed up the whole TLF experience within 5-10 minutes, which is like not an easy task. I will just quickly take you through. I think most of you might be aware of the admission process, but some of you who might have joined us for the first time. So regarding the eligibility criteria, officially speaking, we are looking for someone with an undergrad degree in either engineering, math, or science, any of these fields, who are recent graduates, final year students, or working professionals or entrepreneurs. To the first point, we are not that focused on, of you having a technical degree, but more than that, it's about meeting the prerequisites. If you have a good foundation or a basic foundation in mathematics and programming, and if you're really interested in the program, I think the larger question you need to ask is that is technology something that excites you? Is solving real life problem leveraging technology something that excites you? Then I think Flagship Tech Leaders Fellowship is something worth to look up. Regarding the admission process, the first stage is to fill in your online application by starting the application from the website. This is designed to test more of your passion and creativity and the other credentials, the kind of stuff you have done even beyond your academics. After you submit your online application, then you will receive a test link, which is a 1 hour 15 minutes time test. That is to check upon the basic prerequisites which we talked about, math, covering linear algebra, statistics, probability, etc., and a couple of programming questions. And based on these two parameters, you will be called up for an interview. I will quickly wrap up with just reminding one last thing, which is our approaching deadline for this round, which is 3rd of May. We have another 4 or 5 days to go. So whoever is like midway of their application or like have 90% progress and etc. in your application, I would encourage you to go ahead and submit your application rather than waiting for the last day for the deadline, just to avoid any possible technical issues as well. Now I would like to take a pause and request Pallavi to come in so that Pallavi can actually moderate the questions we have from our participants, as well as help our fellows here to engage with you better. Over to you, Pallavi.
All right, thanks, Shiva. So you've all already met the 3 fellows that we have over here, Bhairavi, Praveen, and Pranav. So maybe we can just ask them a few questions first from our side, and then we'll throw it open for questions to all of you. You're welcome to keep writing your questions in the Q&A box in the meantime. So as a starting question, and this is addressed to all 3 of you individually, you can go in any order. Can you talk a little bit about your experience at TLF? What has this year done for you? How did you come in, and how have you changed over this year? And if there are any specific experiences that contributed towards that? Who'll go first? All right, Bhairavi is unmuted. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. For me, it was a little different. I was not from a background coding. For me, it was more about learning data science, becoming good at it, and on the other hand, also developing leadership skills. I mean, being able to take an idea from like just an idea to action and being proactive. So when I came here, it was a very new environment. I was never in an environment where people are so particular about coding and it's all about tech. So it was very new for me. When I thought of management or project management, it wasn't necessarily only from a tech point of view. So I think that's something that has changed for me. There were a lot of courses. I mean, doing machine learning and AI for me is a very new way of thinking. It's a very different way of thinking altogether. And I think that's something that I've really enjoyed. It's also quite, it gets challenging at times, but I think that's the whole point. Another thing, I think a few experiences are things like the Challenge Lab, which told me that, okay, I'm interested in exploring the startup space. And I think very, very important, the fact that we need to learn from peers. I think that's something that that I didn't realize the importance of when I joined the program. I thought, okay, the teacher's going to teach, I'm going to learn, make sure I learn the best. But the point is, when you have a diverse batch, it's very important that you learn from each other. So I think that's something that I'm hoping to continue, irrespective of the fellowship. And I think on the leadership front, there have been quite a few experiences. Something as basic as being able to listen better. I think that's something that's registered. And yeah, I'm actually looking forward to looking at sustainable development through the tech lens. That's something which is like a career ambition for me. So I'm really hoping that this journey starts here and goes a long way. I hope that answers.
Thanks a lot, Bhairavi. Bhairavi has also been a delight to have in the batch. She's sort of the cultural glue that keeps a lot of people together in the fellowship, along with her unique interests and diverse background, also as being champion. So thanks. Oh, and yeah, of course, Bhairavi is also very passionate about music, and we've had a chance to benefit from that in all of our cultural events. So thanks so much, Thervi. All right, who'll go next?
Just another point, these two on this, I mean, Pranav and Praveen are also great musicians. Lot to learn from them. So.
It's not part of the admission requirements. Just okay.
Oh, very well. Like, what do I add to that? And you've been preparing. Okay, so if I have to talk about my journey, one thing that I'll be able to add is like I came from a technical background. I knew programming and data science before joining the program, and yet I can assure you that the professors have challenging assignments waiting for you. If you come from a similar background, you'd still be learning a lot on that front. Before coming to the program, I had entrepreneurial goals, and like everyone, like everyone has ideas. Now, as I head closer to the completion of the program, I feel that I now know the blueprint to actualize those ideas that I had before coming here. And normally, when I speak to people about the program, they ask me, "What's the whole deal behind leadership being advertised so much?" And to all those like listening to me right now, it's probably the most interesting part of the program, in my opinion. If I have to look back at where I was before joining the program, I can definitely see how far I've come and how well I'm fitting in teams now and how I see myself as a better professional. The answer might differ for different fellows, but that's definitely one aspect you should be looking at before when you'd be joining the program, and probably mention it somewhere in the application.
All right, thanks so much, Pranav. And I think Pranav has also implemented what he's talking about. He leads the student life committee, and for anything where we need somebody to raise their hand, Pranav is always there. Okay, thanks, Pranav. Praveen, you're on.
Right. So I'm also from a technical background, although like my bachelor's was in mechanical. I was also interested in computer science and programming. So in parallel, like I was doing some like stuff around programming and all. And after that, like while working, I had this like tendency towards like deep tech and research. And I wanted an year out to explore that side and to get to know whether I am suited for that. And like Plaksha, they gave me an opportunity to explore all the sides. So one is entrepreneurship, one is core technology, and another is research. So technology, I was already a machine learning engineer, but entrepreneurship, leadership, and the research side, like it helped me bring in a bit more rigor into whatever technical knowledge that I had. So that was pretty nice. And like all like brilliant professors, Professor Ravi Kothari, Sandeep Juneja sir. So all of these people who've been working and doing research in cutting edge institutions like IBM Research and TIFR and places like that. So it was very inspiring to like hear their perspectives and how things are actually implemented in the real world. So I think a lot of the takeaway is by conversations regarding what happened in the real world and what broke down. And those things are some things that you don't find in regular courses that you do online, because like the theory part and stuff you can always like learn from all the great people like Andrew Ng and others. But how things are actually happening in the industry, that was really an eye opener for me. So it's been pretty nice. And even the capstone project that I did with mFine Labs, like it actually reinforced that okay, I am like capable of doing research, and research engineering is something that I can do. So like looking forward to move in that direction, and it's been a great journey so far. Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much, Praveen. So Praveen is known for his humility. And while we have some TAs who are official in the class, he's the unofficial TA of the class, and everybody goes to him for their doubts resolution. I think, Praveen, you can send us a bill at the end of the year for that. But, so anyway, that's great. Next question for all of you. What was your favorite course over the course of the year? You can answer in terms of the course or in terms of the faculty. Just one.
Damn it! I had 3 courses listed down just to talk about this, but okay. I think hands down, if it was a professor, I would say Dr. Ravi Kothari. Not just because of the way he teaches data science, I think he covers the basics, but the stories he tells us during the class, it would just amaze us. And the kind of work he's done, it's about covering the basics. He doesn't expect us to use technical jargons. He asks us to explain everything very simply. And I think it's like an inspiration session every time you sit in his class. So I think for me, hands down, Dr. Kothari.
Okay, great.
Right. I was also going to say about Ravi Kothari, but since you've already mentioned, like I'll go for Professor Sandeep Juneja. Like he's been excellent. So he taught us a course that was optional. So like a few of the fellows missed his course, and I keep telling all those fellows that you missed a really wonderful course. Decisions, risk, and optimization. The way like it can become a very dry subject because like it's very mathematical and all, but the way he teaches and makes the session very lively, like it's hands off. Like I mean, and also like he's a like guy who, I mean, we like some of us who had like doubts and all, like we used to keep pestering him, and like even when we go downstairs for having our lunch, like we'll be sitting with him and keep on bombarding him with questions. And then what he did is he gave us his Skype ID, and then we used to together do a Skype call to clear our like doubts and the sort of things. So he's such a friendly person that like you just can't like stop talking about him. So yeah, that's been the best course for me so far.
Awesome. Pranav.
It's kind of nice that I have a different answer. So it's a tie for me between 2 courses. On the technical front, I really like the introductory Python programming course. Now that seems like a weird answer for someone who's already been programming in Python for the past 4 or 5 years. But even being an introductory class, it had enough to keep even the most of the advanced programmers interested. Hearing from someone who's a site reliability engineer at Google, I mean, you cannot doubt his credentials, and every concept he explained connected like how to take those basic concepts to something that is being used at Google. So I really was fond of that class. The other class is something I did not know I needed to attend. It was by Professor Amit Kumar, and he taught us a subject called persuasive presence, which was basically about how to present yourself from communication to a very important aspect, which was how to take criticism. And it's a skill it's a really hard skill to learn, and that class really taught me a lot, and I credit him a lot for how he has shaped me as an individual in the program. So I think these 2 classes are my favorites.
Okay, awesome. Pranav, since you got your second shot also, Bhairavi, do you want to, I'll let you go to the second course that you had on your list. What was that? You're on mute.
You're on mute.
I think that would be HCI for me. It was, I really like it. It was by Dr. Hangal. It was a very new way of thinking. I love analyzing and like figuring out what's wrong in things. And I think things like heuristic evaluation, having an idea log where you observe things around you and try to think of solutions to those. I think such exercises were extremely interesting to me. But other than that, the leadership courses, I don't want to keep talking only about the technical ones. I think some of them had some great breakthroughs, lots of ups and downs through those courses, but I think that was pretty meaningful.
Awesome, great. So I think we'll open it up now for questions from all of you. Some of them have already started coming in. So the first one is that I applied late for the TLF 2020 program. Does applying late reduce my chances? Jiva, do you want to take that?
Applying late for the program, I think if you put in a good application and you have good enough credentials and you have a basic score for the online test, I think definitely you will be getting a call for interview. From a timeline perspective, of course, as we move towards after each round, I think there are less seats to be filled, more applications coming in. That's a trend we have generally seen. So that's how the math work out there. But I don't think that should be a factor which stops you from putting in a good application and giving a best shot. If that kind of helps you with the query, I'm not sure.
Okay. Next question is that how does Saksha plan on combating the troubles that are caused by COVID? Okay, that's a difficult question that I'll hand over to Shabni. Shabni is the director of the program and she's spending all her days and nights thinking about this question.
Okay. One second. Am I audible or is there a... I'm audible, right? Yeah. So how are we handling the situation because of COVID? So like I mentioned, we have 2 terms left for the current cohort. We have the term 7, which is in the month of May. We have moved that to an online, course delivery kind of mechanism. So professors, whether from India or overseas, will conduct classes through an online method. We will have certain guest lectures and workshops, and they'll all be online. For term 8, which is in the month of June, we have kept the possibility, in case the lockdown restrictions are eased, then of course these will be physical face-to-face classroom teaching. But otherwise, for every course, we have checked with the faculty whether it can be delivered online or not. Because for us, student safety comes first. I mean, that is something which we are absolutely not going to compromise upon. So the safety and security of our fellows is number 1. And then, of course, for them to get the experience in the best possible way through an online way of teaching is what we have requested our faculty to deliver. So I would think that's the first thing. And otherwise, placements, we have started our students have just come back from the capstone process, and we have started the process of placements, wherein we are talking to various companies and all that. So yes, I think while there is a lot of uncertainty as a result of COVID, prevailing globally, but we firmly believe that the skill sets which our students are equipped with, there is a lot of requirement for data scientists, AI, ML engineers, etc. So this is something which will happen even if, even in a world which is hit by COVID, which is hit by uncertainties as a result of COVID, which is even if there is a recession, but the requirement and the need for data scientists will always be there. So that's something which we have realized even in our conversations with companies.
Okay, great. Next question is that what kind of topics are taught under the tech core pillar? So some of this was covered in the slide earlier. Jiva, if you can just project the slide which had the course list.
Yeah, sure.
And maybe if
I can do a quick. Yeah, Praveen, why don't one of you okay, this is not a question to see how much you all remember of what courses you all learned, but maybe you all can just, go through it to just some of the courses which you all have done under the core technology component.
So core technology, like the first course was the programming course, programming in Python, which was taken by Kingshuk Dasgupta from Google. Like once you have your basics solid in programming, and then like the core course was mathematics for machine learning, where like statistics and linear algebra and everything that is required to understand the more complex subjects that are coming ahead in the other terms. So that is covered through. Then we have like core DataX courses. So DataX is basically a course that is run in Berkeley. So we have like faculty from Berkeley coming in and taking the same courses that they take there here for us. And that involves like core machine learning part, and it is divided into 2 parts. And it has a theory component and a practical lab component where you make a project out of whatever you learn, whatever techniques that you learned. So it covers all your regular machine learning, supervised learning, reinforcement learning, so all those concepts. And these are the core ones. And then there's AI for Scale, where basically you learn how to scale all these techniques when you are deploying it in a large scale environment. So I guess it covers more or less the main stuff, and there are more courses, but yeah, this is the overall.
Thanks, Praveen. If you have any follow-up questions to that, you can put them down in Q&A. Okay, what is the cost of this program, Jiva?
Yeah, apologies for that. I think I missed out putting on the slide. So the cost for the 1-year fully residential program, the tuition fee is 9.5 lakhs. We also have a very liberal scholarship policy. So we offer scholarships ranging from 25% to 100% of the tuition. This is provided based on both merit as well as need, and which is being calculated. Once you submit your application, there is a comprehensive financial aid form which you're asked to fill up. So based on that, yeah, we do offer scholarships as well. Plus the residence fee is around 1.7 lakhs, taking into total sum of 11.2 lakhs.
Okay, next question is about what the accreditation of the program is and what's the degree awarded at the end of it. So this is a fellowship program. So it's a 1-year fellowship program. It is not a degree at the moment because in India, any master's level program needs to be 2 years long in order to be called a degree as per the law. But in terms of its credit equivalence, in terms of the course load and so on, it is the equivalent of a 1-year master's program in the US. So in the US, a program of this kind is usually called a professional master's. So in terms of the number of courses, course load, hours, all of that is benchmarked to that. And if anyone is to apply abroad or further studies, PhD, etc., then what colleges look at is credit equivalence. So the program has that credit equivalence. From a placements perspective, and there are examples of ISB and other institutions before, wherein what matters to companies is the employability of people, what they know, what their skills are, and not as much, what it is in legal terms. But specifically, no, it is not a degree at the moment. It is a fellowship program. So people get a certificate at the end of it, which is co-signed by us and by UC Berkeley, which is a partner to the program. Okay, next question is very interesting. When is the undergrad program starting? Because you just completed your school studies. Okay, great. You're doing well. You're already attending a webinar for a master's level program. But undergrad is starting next year in September. We're happy to connect offline and share details of what kind of degrees will be there in it. Okay, any success stories from fellows of the first batch? So the batch hasn't graduated yet, but we're happy to share, the kind of things people have been doing while they are here, the sort of projects they worked on, the kind of capstone projects they've done. Maybe Shabni, if you can give a little bit of overview, and the fellows can add some things from their own experiences.
Yeah, so as I said, the students have, there's a huge diversity in the cohort. We see that also in where they are aiming to go after this program. So there are people who want to go in for jobs as data scientists or AI ML engineers. There are people who want to go in for research. There are people who want to have their own startups. And so we've seen a lot of fellows at quite a few, so these are the kind of, since the placements haven't happened, I think this gives you an idea of the capstones or the internships where fellows have worked on, and they're still, some of them are still currently finishing off these capstones. Apart from that, maybe the next slide on the, So these are the variety of projects they worked on, and this is the entrepreneurial. So we had 6 people, as I said, working on their own startup ventures. A few of them may consider pursuing this beyond, after they graduate from Plaksha, and who knows where I mean, we see a lot of potential from from the startup ideas which have come up. Apart from that, I will let the students talk about, what the success stories are. I think it's also very important to define what is success. So, they are definitely, as you've heard from them, the aim of this program is to turn out tech leaders, right? So people who will go on to be, leaders in the field of technology. We see a lot of potential from, the way the diverse cohort has kind of come together, and the kind of interests which have come up. I mean, I mentioned the mentoring program, right? The kind of feedback we have received from mentors about their mentees is simply has been amazing. So a lot of two-way traffic, I think, because our students have the potential and the eagerness to learn and to be led. I mean, that's why a lot of the success which we see from our founding batch has happened. So I'll hand it over to you, Praveen, Pranav, and Bhairavi, on what you feel your biggest success has been, or even stories of your peers.
I think I love to answer that question since I interact with a lot of people in the batch. My own success story might sound like bragging, so I'll talk about one of my friends who did not have a college degree before joining the program, and he's an amazing coder, and he already has started 2-3 startups before coming here, and he wanted to see like how to do bigger things in life, and it's actually really amazing to interact with him. And he got into a company called RCZM, and it was one of the most competitive companies to get in a capstone placement process, and it was really amazing to see that companies acknowledge someone without a college degree and acknowledge the skills at the end. I'm really fond of that success story. Apart from that, I see a lot of my peers working on the startups, including me. So while the output might not be very visible right now, I'm very optimistic about us or maybe a lot of us making it big sometime, at least a few years down the line.
Bhairavi, Praveen, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I guess I think success, I mean, that's something that is different for different people. We cannot standardize the definition or the metric for success. I think a few examples that I like to give is like we have one of our batchmates, Vanchika, who did not come from a coding background. She's from math background. Her learning curve has been so steep during this program. I think if there was one person who's made the most of learning from peers, I think hands down that would be her. I really look up to her. I still struggle with asking for help, but she's so good. She knows what to ask and how much to do herself, and I think that's great. And she's working with InfoEdge right now. I mean, on her capstone, and I'm sure she's been learning a lot there. There have been people who have been attempting their own startups, and I think that takes a lot of guts. No matter whether that startup gets established or not, whether it succeeds or not, I think that's still a success story. Right now we have this Plaksha research group that's like people like Praveen, Rashmi, all of them came together, Ramya, they came together and decided let's learn together as a group, and that's been happening, and I think that itself is success. So I think there are very different definitions, and the fact that people are giving it their best, I think that there will be a lot of stories like that.
Great, thanks so much, Pranav and Bhairavi, and I completely concur with everything that has been said. Success really means different things to different people. For all of you who are listening and everybody who applied, I'm sure everybody is not looking for the same thing. It could mean in terms of your career choices, be that a corporate job or research or entrepreneurship. It could also mean how you wish to grow personally. There could be some dimensions that you want to grow on, maybe the leadership dimension, maybe how you interact with people, maybe it's the technical side. So it's different things for different people. And I think what we feel happy about is that people choose to do different things and they choose to follow their passion. And, this is not a place where everyone's cast into the same mold. And I think that really speaks to both the aspirations of people and what they've been able to achieve. Okay. Next question is if we provide co-op programs with companies and universities worldwide. So co-op is, the term is defined differently in different places, but we have an equivalent of it, which is called the capstone. So at the capstone, which it's a 2-month project wherein people are working full-time at an external organization. So it is similar to a co-op. In some universities, that duration could be 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, whatever. In this case, it's 2 months. And it is both with companies and with universities. So like Shabni had mentioned, a lot of people went into companies through the capstone project. Many others worked with faculty. Some of these faculty were teaching at the TLF, and they built a relationship over the year and went on to do advanced research projects with them. Some were people who came in as guest lecturers, or others who they just met over the year and decided to write into later and source a project with them. One team also went abroad to Purdue University to work on this project. And yeah, some people worked on startups as well. Okay, the next question is, doesn't matter if I don't have enough of a technical background. I think we answered it to some extent, but maybe, Bharvi, you were referring to this earlier, if you want to just answer this question directly as well.
Okay, yeah, I think it's not necessary to be a hardcore coder, but I would strongly recommend that you get your basics set in coding. I think I didn't take out enough time to do that before the program, but I think it would really help your own confidence if you do take up an online course in coding and also on the mathematics part for AI. Because once you enter the program, it's going to be really fast-paced. So if you have your basics set, I think that will really help you. I think, yeah, if coding and math, these are some prereqs that you should just try to learn on your own, so that when you come to the batch, you can just catch on from there.
Yeah, and I think unlike last year, this time for all of you who are applying in this round or are already through, there's quite some runway between now and when the program begins. So you can use some of this time to brush up. It's only going to benefit you. But having said that, I think one of the things we've also realized over the year is that people's attitude and willingness to learn makes the biggest difference in what they're able to gain and absorb. So sometimes people come in with a certain kind of background, but they're just able to absorb that quickly because they come in with that attitude of trying to learn. So within the class, there are people from pretty varied backgrounds. There are people who come in with machine learning experience at the workplace for many years, and there are people who are pretty much fresh in and are not from they don't have a computer science or coding background, and there are people of all kinds, and people have done well in different ways. Having said that, do use this time to brush up, if you have it. Okay, for the upcoming cohort, would the classes in the initial terms be happening online or in person? Shabni, maybe you can take that.
Yeah. So again, like I said, just to repeat, the safety and security of our students will come first. So while we had the faculty and curriculum all decided for the next batch, given the situation, we have also started checking with the faculty of the first at least 2 to 3 terms, whether they have the ability to teach the course online or not. So in the event that that there is some kind of a lockdown again, or there are some restrictions, so that at least the curriculum is not disrupted, because there are some courses which cannot be taught online. So those courses may be pushed to the latter part of the curriculum, but otherwise we are just merely checking with faculty on whether the course can be taught online or not. But otherwise it should be life as usual if everything goes back to normal.
Okay. Jugal, your question is about, studying a few things before the term begins. We answered that. In terms of online sources, we'll send that, Jiva, you can send that across to Jugal, and I think it will be sent to everybody. There is a list that is recommended along with all the links, so we'll send that across to you. Okay, can you give us some idea on the type of companies coming for placements for the current cohort? Sure. Shabni, back to you.
Yeah, okay. So again, like we said, since the placement season is just starting, I mean, a lot of our students are still at internships. We showed you a screen where where our students were doing their capstones. That continues to be, that should give you an idea of what kind of companies we are in touch with. I'm not saying that all of them will come back for placements, but yes, we are in touch with several names in the data science and AI/ML field. And I think this question will be best answered once placements are done, which is over the next couple of months. So stay tuned. I think keep connected with us and the fellows, and you'll find out which companies are coming in. But just to repeat myself, the capstones should give an idea of the kind of names which our students went and interned at.
Okay. Next question is, if there's a course in which we use AI and integrate it in an interdisciplinary manner to try and find out the best of them. Okay. Fellows, do you want to take this?
I think Praveen or Pranav, one of you can answer this well.
Maybe you can start with talking about one of your DataX projects or capstone if you felt that you had to bring together a few things. I think if I understand the question correctly, it means using AI in a broader context, so that combined with a bunch of other things that you may have learned, like how do the courses really interlink with each other and come together?
So I'll try answering that one. So I took my sweet time to think how to narrow down what all I have to add to this. So the first thing that came to my mind is the grand challenge that we have. It's quite fast-paced, but you do get a good perspective of how AI and ML is applied to different fields in this, which are not directly otherwise related to tech. Some of the examples being fintech, agriculture, and of course healthcare. And apart from that, yeah, we do have a DataX project, as Vallavi mentioned. So DataX gave us the chance, after we had learned some basic data science skills. We were divided in teams, and we got to ideate on our ideas and developed a full-fledged project to practice AI in different fields. So I made my project in the field of education, and similarly there were many other projects ranging from agriculture to, let's say, even finance. And there were also category of projects which were just for fun, and they were applications of AI in a non-serious context. So you'll do get a lot of opportunities to apply your technical skills in domains that do not directly come under tech, the limited definition of tech, I should say. Yeah, so this pretty much that the program would offer you. I hope I answered that question.
What project were you referring to which was applied in a non-serious, where AI was applied in a non-serious context?
Oh, so this was, I think Praveen and Bhairavi worked on it. They should have spoken about it. So they made a playlist generator or something like related to matching two songs based on the context in different languages. I actually found that really fun. The results were also sometimes funny.
Okay, this is an interesting project. I didn't know about that. I'm going to take access to this playlist at the end of this meeting. Okay. Next question is, if people in the current cohort are going for higher education post DLF, if yes, what sort of programs are they applying for? Shabni?
Yeah. So we have I think, again, Pranav, Praveen, and Bhairavi would be able to say this better. We do have a couple of fellows who've shown interest in higher education. I think one of them already has an acceptance from a US university for a master's level program. I'm not very sure on what the discipline is, but we do have some fellows who are, trying to get into residencies and, long-term internships, etc. For master's level programs, yes, definitely. I can see another follow-up question as well, where yes, you do have a lot of faculty you've seen, earlier in the presentation coming from some of the best universities in the US. And if you work well with that professor and you do well in that course, establish a good rapport, there's, a very important part of getting into a US or any international master's or PhD program is the LOR, right? Or the letter of recommendation. So that's something which I think should certainly help. That's the next question. On the master's thing, any specific discipline, I would request either of you three, if one of you can answer that, because I'm not very sure on what the exact discipline is. Though I know a couple are sitting on a few acceptances.
Right. So like a few of the fellows have research interests. So one is whom I know well is Ribhu. So he wants to do a PhD, and he's been applying to a lot of colleges where he specifically has interests in secure machine learning. So machine learning, like the security aspects and the interpretability and explainability aspects of it. So he's applying to specific colleges where this sort of a PhD program is available. And a few have interests in other areas that are not completely machine learning AI, but related subjects like healthcare analytics and related fields. So I think it all boils down to the individual person's interests, because higher studies again is something that you want to spend 2 years, or for master's 2 years, and for PhD 5 years of your life specializing in a field. So it will be very different for each individual.
So I wanted to add another aspect to that. I'm currently pursuing a master's program at Georgia Tech online. Since, as Praveen mentioned, it's a commitment to go to college, back to college again for 2 to 5 years. I think that's another option many people would want to consider. Before coming to Plaksha, I had also applied to many colleges and got acceptances. I decided to defer my admission, but I came out across this online master's program by Georgia Tech, and now I'm not going to US. And given the situation, I think some of you might want to consider a master's online master's program after the fellowship is over.
Yeah. I think some people may also apply for PhDs in the future and not immediately after, offer any other sorts of programs. And some people are pursuing research in the meantime, either in companies or with faculty, but which may or may not be with the intent of resulting in higher education immediately after the program. So Ribhu, for instance, who Praveen just spoke about, his capstone project is with the faculty at Purdue. So they were also due to go to Purdue, but because of the COVID situation, they decided not to travel. But that project is around bias in AI algorithms. And that's something that is working on remotely with the professor. And I think you all also, Praveen, I think you're part of the same team where you all worked on some DataX project where you took help from one of your mentors, right?
Right, yes.
Yeah. So Ribhu's mentor, so every person in the fellowship is assigned a personal mentor. So his mentor, his name is Vineet Gupta, and there's one who's the co-chair of the program. There's another one who is part of the Google Brain team in the US, and he was his mentor. So I think this was a very proactive team that decided to take his inputs on their project, and they ended up going well beyond what was expected in the class. So these are the sort of things people can do on their own, and that's a pursuit of the interest, which may or may not be with the intent of higher education right after. But for those people who are applying, in terms of recommendations, it is a complete personal relationship. What Plaksha does is that you get access to the faculty. So everybody has access to all the faculty who are coming here. Whether they choose to give a recommendation or not is entirely the discretion of the faculty. It depends on what relationship you built with them and whether you were able to impress them. okay, does the number of fellows have to be 60? Can there not be any exceptions if more and more potential candidates apply? So we feel 60 is a good number in terms of the kind of experience that the entire class is able to have. And so that is the number that we would hope to have. In terms of more people, it's a hard question to answer at the moment. We plan to stay with 60. But I don't know, Shabni, Jiva, you want to add or contradict or say anything different, but that's what we plan to stick with.
Yeah, I think Pallav, you've said it. So, but go ahead and apply. I mean, to the person who asked this question, I mean, it is a very stringent selection process, but yeah, I mean, you definitely could be one of that 60, right? So,
okay. Do fellows apply to institutions themselves for capstone projects, or are they assisted by Plaksha faculty? So for corporates, this runs like, it is entirely facilitated by us. So we reach out to companies, ask them for projects, and those project descriptions are shared with the entire class. So people know which company, they know exactly what project they'd be working on, whom their mentor would be. All of those details are given before they choose to apply for that project. And once they apply, they go through a selection process. So that's how it runs. For research projects, it's a bit of a mix. In some cases, Plaksha assists with making the connection where the person may not have been a faculty at TLF itself. They may be other people in the academic network. So for instance, there was a person in the class who had interest in astrophysics. We didn't have a course like that in the fellowship, but we helped him reach out to a faculty at ICTS who works exactly in that field, and then he did a capstone there. In other cases where it is with faculty who came here, there the way it would generally work is that fellows have a relationship themselves, so they can reach out to the faculty on their own. And faculty also already know the students, so they know whom they'd be happy to work with. So some of those things also happen organically. But for corporates, it is entirely facilitated by us. Okay, can you guys tell us a bit about your capstone projects? Fellows, go for it.
Right. So I did my capstone project at MFine, which is a healthcare, like medical, it works in the medical industry, and like essentially what they do is like online consultations with doctors, and they also run a lot of health checkups, and they have in-house labs where like they build reports and do the medical diagnosis part of the medicals, the whole medical industry. And there, my project was based on neural network interpretability, wherein like, I mean, a lot of these deep learning models, it's hard to explain the stakeholders on what actually is happening inside a model. And many times, like especially in regulated industries, it's very important that you exactly can explain the regulators what is happening and why a certain decision was made, because like it's a life and death sort of scenarios, right? So my project involved developing algorithms and implementing algorithms which can highlight different regions in an image. So let's say you have a X-ray scan of your lungs, and it can highlight which portions are the cause of your disease, and then can tell the doctors, okay, maybe this is why this person has this particular variation of this disease, and then the doctor can work upon that and like follow up through his medical procedures. So my part was implementing those algorithms and integrating it with the systems in-house. So it was quite fun, like reading research papers and implementing them. So it was quite a good, challenging project.
Thanks, Praveen. Jiva, I want to do a quick time check. I know we're past 8. So what target time should I work with in terms of, how much time we can spend per question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, maybe we can extend a little bit too, because there are a lot more questions lined up. If our fellows and, Shabani and you are actually comfortable with, maybe we can try and wrap up in another 5-10 minutes if that works for everyone.
Sure. Okay, great. All right. Then what is the area of focus of the mentoring program? All right. So do one of you want to speak about your mentoring experience?
Okay. I guess it's not like an official framework or something. We've all been assigned mentors based on our personality, based on our interests, the way we think, and our career goals, etc. So I think it's to each their own. That's the way we've been taking it. Like different people have been having different kinds of conversations with their mentor, trying to learn about their stories. Asking for some kind of guidance because there's just so many choices sometimes what you do. I think that's been predominantly most of the conversations we've been having, and I think just updating on what's going on. There's a lot to learn about them more than just asking them questions about like data science or something technical. It's a lot about how their journey shaped. For me, it's Manas Floria who heads Nagaro, and he's got a major interest in environmental issues. So I think the fact that I can connect to him on that, and the fact that he'll understand my aspirations, I think for me that's important. So I know that I can talk to him anytime, and I think they're pretty approachable. You can ask them any kind of questions that you have. Different people have different opinions, honestly. Like there's one fellow whose mentor insisted you have to participate in this hackathon. Make sure that you do a good job, and I mean, show your skills out there. So I think it depends on the personality of the mentor as well. So I think it's very different for different people.
I would like to add to that because personally for me, mentoring has been one of my favorite aspects of the program. If I have to summarize the entire experience, you could see mentors as people who are already there where you possibly want to get to in your life at some point. And to validate your ideas and your plans from someone like that is an absolute luxury to have. And I'm not sure how I would have done that without the program. And apart from the official mentoring setting, it's not like there's mentoring classes or something. I can ping my mentor anytime on WhatsApp. Different students have different relationships, of course. And even apart from the official setting, you'll often get mentors in the form of guest lectures, and even in the challenge lab, you'll get to interact with other people's mentors. And I think anytime you spend with them is almost like you'll be taking notes whenever they speak. So, so that's actually a really fun part of the program.
Okay, great. Dhruv's question is if it's advisable for people with 5+ years of experience in the IT industry. Praveen, do you want to take that?
So I think it depends on what are you looking ahead, and if you like want an year off and think like go deeper into tech, that's an option here. If you want to since you've been working in the IT industry for 5 years, I'm sure you'll have like tons and tons of startup ideas, because I know every programmer, every IT industry professional has some sort of an idea that is lying behind, and you want an year out to explore that and build something out. That's again one option. So it depends on what you are looking ahead, and I can guarantee that like the environment here will be conducive for whatever plans that you have. And I think we also have like, so I myself had like four years of experience before coming. So mine was into research. So I've been exploring that and like almost come to a conclusion that okay, that's something that I can take up, but maybe not in an academic setting, more in a industry lab sort of a setting. So that was again one of my this year for this program. Like I wanted to explore, am I like more into academic research or industrial research? So I have like right now I figured out ki it's more of an industrial research, where in research labs and like something that can be out there in production sort of a thing. So I think yeah, that's, and we also have like a couple of more people who are very experienced, like 4-5 years experience, and they want to transition into product management. So that's also another like a thing that you can take out of the program. So there are like so many pathways. You just have to align which path you want to take.
Okay, thanks, Praveen. All right, Umang's question is how the Challenge Lab experience was. Which of you wants to talk about that?
Pranav, are you taking that? Or...
No, you take it. I just wanted to save time.
Okay, I think
Bharvi was part of. She was part of a Power Pack all girls team.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we had some rules. I'm very keen to mention this. So we had a rule around how Challenge Lab teams get formed, and there were a bunch of criteria that were written there, which were to ensure diversity in the team. We need one person who is very strong on the technical side. One person who is great in terms of team facilitation, and someone who's a great ideator, and all of those different things that need to come together for an entrepreneurial team to work well. So Bharvi's team created. There were 5 girls who came together and said, "We tick all of these boxes. Can you please let us be a team?" And we were like, "Yeah, absolutely." So we were very excited to see what comes of it.
Yeah, thank you. So I think for us, the Challenge Lab, none of us had startup experience, so it was definitely interesting to see how to go from brainstorming different ideas, working together as a team, coming up with a problem that really means something to us. I think particularly in our team, everyone was like socially driven, so we wanted to do something that was impactful, and we didn't necessarily want to force fit tech either into the problem. So I think it was a big learning experience. We learned a lot about pivoting. We changed our idea twice. We had Pankaj Chadha, one of the co-founders of Zomato. He mentored us, and I think that was a very one of my favorite parts of the whole process, because every time we were like, okay, what do we do? There's so many options, and he would come in very calmly, tell us, okay, here's what you can do. Brainstorm on like a draft a BRD and get all your ideas on paper, get all your processes on paper. And I think these experiences were very useful. And I think we learned a lot from people around us as well. Like there were people who were very good at iterating fast. So how do you really get your idea from the idea to implementation? I realized that I tend to spend a lot of time on making sure that the problem is as well defined as possible. And then that you cut down on actually implementing. So I think overall, there were many different aspects to the Challenge Lab. You learn how to pitch. And I think one of the important takeaways for all of us at the end of the Challenge Lab was keep your idea simple. Don't try to overcomplicate it. And I think those were the ideas that even won the Challenge Lab. And yeah, it showed that if you want to do a startup, you have to make sure that you're dedicated and you give it your all and you prioritize that. So I think that was something that we learned as well.
And you had to do your pitch in what, like 5 minutes, right? So
yeah.
The elevator pitch where everybody had to pitch in, and there was a 5-minute timeline. So
yeah.
No, I think all of you came a long way in the way the final outcomes happened. So great job there.
The jury was very happy. Okay. Ayush Sharma's question is that what are some best practices you'd suggest to the next batch? I'm very interested to hear the answer to this myself.
Me too. Yeah.
Okay. So if I have to, this is a very tough one to answer, but if it has to be one thing, I'll say keep a positive attitude when things are not working out well. Persisting in hard times will get you far, and if you decide to quit in between, you're anyways not getting to where you wanted to go when you started your journey. So you keep a positive attitude throughout the program. Things would get tough. Sometimes it might not just work out for you. But stick to your goals and plans and persist through your what you were up to, and I think great things will come out of it.
Bharvi's thinking hard. about what it went. Yeah.
I guess something that we realized probably a little late was that it's important that you learn from everybody in the batch. There are 60 people for a reason, and you tend to you form your own silos, and of course you get comfortable with certain people, but it's important that you interact with everybody because there's a lot to learn from them. I think two things that our batch learned a lot of times the hard way was integrity. Making sure that we maintain integrity. I think that's very important. And be humble. Don't. I think it's important that we don't feel entitled. We are caught into this Tech Heroes Fellowship. That's not a good idea. And best practices. Be open to learning. I think that's very important. Make sure you learn from people around you. Make sure you're excited about learning, and try to take the batch along with you. I think it's more from the personality perspective that I'm talking, but yeah, I think these are some best practices.
Great, thanks. These are wonderful answers. All right. Okay, we still have 8 questions left. I'll take the ones which have a name to the person first. Meghna is asking if the upcoming class will be taught by the same teachers and if there's any change in the courses or instructors. Shamini?
Yeah, so while some of the instructors will remain the same, there will be changes, of course, in some. So it's not going to be a carbon copy of what was the faculty of last year. We've taken a lot of feedback from students as well. On the courses which worked well, the faculty which kind of delivered the way it was well received, etc. Plus the availability. Now that the course starts, what is very important is the availability of the faculty. A lot of the faculty are from the US. And now the term will starting on 31st August means it coincides with the fall semester of the US. Nevertheless, we have a lot of faculty who are on sabbatical, etc. this particular term. So while all that is being finalized, just answer very simply that while some of them will remain the same, there will be changes in some of them as well. So yeah.
Yeah, so feedback is taken from the previous year, both on, what courses worked well and in what sequence. So there was some feedback in some cases that there was a certain term which had too many courses and some which were lighter and so on. So redistribution of that, what should come first, later. So some of those things, they change over the years as we take feedback from the class. Okay. How many hours per week need to be invested for successful completion of the program? Is it possible to work remotely alongside? I would believe not. And at least in terms of feedback from the class in terms of the load and assignments and so on, and frequent requests for extension of deadlines, I would imagine not. Nonetheless, let me ask the fellows to answer that question.
Give us a number. I think give all of us a number of how much you felt you worked on an average, right?
24/7. I mean, you have to manage your sleep as well, so count that up as a part of the program. I quit my job 2 months into the program, so I had a remote job. So I can tell you it wasn't easy. I was surviving on caffeine to get through the workload, and it's definitely not a healthy practice. So don't really do it if you're unsure of your schedule and how things are planned for you.
Okay. Can someone from outside engineering or non-sciences background join this program, and how rigorous would it be? I think we answered it broadly in terms of a non-technical background. In terms of just eligibility, the prerequisite test covers math and programming. So those are the two things that are needed from a prerequisite perspective. If you come from a different background but can clear this bar, then it's fine. If you come from this background and can't clear that bar, then it's a problem. So it really depends on, whether you have that knowledge or not. It could in some cases be self-acquired, and that's okay. Nice to listen to the success stories. What are a few things which didn't work out for you personally, if any? fellows? Is there something like that? And if there is, there's a few months left to go. So
if I have to, I mean, this is a new program. There'll be a couple of things that you probably feel don't suit you. I'd still say, I mean, there were times, for example, where I found managing my time extremely challenging because FOMO is a huge part. If you suffer from, if you face FOMO, then this program is going to give you enough of it, because there are guest lectures, there are classes, there are people doing really cool things, and you want to do it all. So I think that's been, I think sometimes not being able to prioritize and not being able to just, I guess, focus sometimes was challenging for me. I mean, there are different, it's a very diverse cohort. So for example, the challenge lab, some people may like the format, some may not. Some courses might be too basic for some people, too challenging for others. But I think there's a lot of initiative in taking feedback and making sure that everything is worked on. So I think I personally believe that it's important that you give and take feedback continuously and make sure that you work on whatever it is. It's not just the program team giving you the program, you also are part of making it what it is. But yeah, I think other than that, personally, it's been not being able to ask for help and FOMO. So,
okay. What is one thing that you learned during the program that you will remember for a lifetime? Can be personal, academic, or anything else that happened during the program. I guess it's referring to any specific moment or experience.
Okay, yeah, so two things for me. First is learning to take criticism. I've come far when it comes to that. And second being, ethics is important. It's not just a moral science lecture that you'll learn at once and forget it. Yeah, these two lessons I think were the most important to me, because I believed otherwise before.
Okay, great. In what detail are technical and other topics covered? I believe it's essential to have a solid technical knowledge before working on a big project. I think Praveen answered that when he was talking about people who come in with significant prior experience. Whoever's asked this question, if you feel it's not answered, we're happy to do that offline. Okay, are there some discipline timelines wherein I have to leave the place before some time? What if I get hit up with something and want to work right away? Okay, I didn't fully understand the question. Leave the place as in leave which place? Classroom, it's a residential program. So, you're welcome to work overnight from the residence whenever you like. From the campus, it does have some timings. You can't be there throughout the night. But there were days when I think people had just far too much work to do and they needed Wi-Fi, which was of a completely different speed. So on those days, the campus was kept open till pretty late, and I'm told that people slept over at night there on some days. But that's really it. Apart from that, the residence is open the entire time, so there people collaborate and work together all the time.
And also, it's a compulsorily a residential program. So we have students from Delhi NCR who are enrolled, but they have to stay at the residence. So that's important to know.
Okay, so last question is around fee. So the first 2-3 terms get online. Should the fee structure be revised? Moreover, the hostel fee be refunded in case? All right, I think this question is a bit into the future. It depends on how the situation unfolds. But Shabni, if you want to.
No, absolutely, Pallavi. I think you're totally right. It's a little premature to be answering this now, and obviously we will take a call as we come to the situation, and it will be a fair decision which is taken, I'm sure.
Okay, great. We managed to get through all the questions, Jiva. That's 26 minutes extra.
Yes. Thanks for, added up like into 7 people on the panel right now. So it's a lot more than that. So once again, thanks to all the fellows, Shabani, Pallavi, and Dhoni. Just a reminder again on the application deadline, we are approaching this Sunday, 3rd of May. We would also like to probably announce we have a second Plaksha Tech Talk happening this Saturday. So you will be receiving the details soon. So you can tune into the second Plaksha Tech Talk. Saturday, 6:30 p.m. We have Dr. Rajiv Barwa from University of Maryland. That's another announcement for all of you. But apart from that, yeah, once again, wish you all the very best with the upcoming deadlines and your plans for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bhairavi, Praveen, Pranav. Okay, I think he's already gone off. Thank you. And we'll see you soon since term 7 starts next Monday.
Yeah.
I wanted to have a chat with all of you. I'll probably just reach out on the WhatsApp group, maybe just to tell you what to expect in term 7.
Dhoni, you can now end the meeting as well since we are on.
Yeah, no, I know I can. I've